The original DS and DS Lite were compatible with Game Boy Advance cartridges. Not original Game Boy, they aren't God. The Nintendo DS Lite was supposed to be actually presentable though, so they included this little filler piece to make the design look more flush. While I didn't ever lose the stylus, I definitely lost this little piece as it was completely unnecessary. It didn't do anything except make you feel better about yourself. Like, what if people see me on the train? The main reason I pitched this was so then I could just plug whatever in the slot whenever I wanted. In which this is the place the most iconic DS accessories called home. This slot, on top of giving us the ability to play Game Boy Advance games, completely revolutionized handheld peripherals. You couldn't do this kind of stuff on the PSP, like the Memory Expansion Pack. F you, Sony. This was bundled with the Nintendo DS browser, and what I have here is the DS Lite version. This one will work on the original DS model. For that, you had to go to Nintendo's online shop. Weirdly enough, though, the original DS model's expansion pack works on the DS Lite, but the DS Lite version doesn't work on the original DS, so why wouldn't they just release the original version in stores that works for both? It's because the Nintendo DS browser had no reason to give a shit. Accessories that use the Game Boy Advance slot, or slot 2 as Congress calls it, are called DS Option Packs and expand the world of DS software to include Wikipedia. The Memory Expansion Pack is required for the browser and very little else. Zero can be little. Yeah, this was only used for this title specifically because the DS can't run a web browser all on its own. We ask too much of it. So why not tackle something a bit more useful? The Rumble Pack. This is a full-on throwback to the Nintendo 64, where it too had a Rumble Pack, allowing for supported games to feel the power of a seizure. Some Game Boy Color and Advance titles had built-in Rumble features, but of course that cost more to manufacture. You had to design a cartridge around that kind of thing. With the DS, having an optional separate accessory meant more games could theoretically support it, like Picross DS. It's like I'm really there! Roughly 50 games supported the Rumble Pack, and most of them were released from 2005 to 2007. I think many developers and publishers realized most people weren't getting enough out of Rumble in these games to warrant plugging it in slot 2, so why bother even supporting it? But the Rumble is more impressive than I expected though. It's fairly nuanced, kind of like the HD Rumble and the Nintendo Switch controllers. It's not gonna blow your mind, but it's a fairly detailed little Rumble. It's a shame more games don't support it, though I completely understand as I'm not gonna go out of my way to ever use this again. That's right, I'm taking a stand. If we're talking DS accessories that plug into slot 2 though, we gotta talk arthritis. This is one everybody remembers, even if you never owned it. The Guitar Hero Guitar Grip was the DS accessory. Shows how much creativity developers had on the DS. How do we take Guitar Hero and put it on the platform without taking away everything that makes a Guitar Hero, i.e. the guitar? Well, you f up your wrist, that's how. Plugging this into the GBA slot and holding the DS on its side, we have a Guitar Hero game, now with one less button. I can be pissed about that. It works incredibly well though. I'm just awful at Guitar Hero. My hand-eye coordination from Guitar Hero buttons to screen just never fully developed. But that doesn't take away from how special this device is. It even came with a guitar pick stylus that fits into the grip itself. This was a pretty popular title on the DS and spawned a few sequels, including Band Hero, which also used the guitar grip but had a drum pad as well. This isn't nearly as endearing. It's a silicone sleeve you put your DS Lite into. God, these kind of cases always feel like somebody just wiped their nose with them. You slide that all on and you have drum pads. It works. It's kind of cute, just not nearly as ingenious as the guitar grip, but a worthy attempt at playing drums on the go. And keep in mind, these accessories are made with the DS Lite in mind. The guitar grip requires this adapter to work on the original DS because of design differences, and the Band Hero drums just straight up won't work. And if you try to play with the guitar grip on the DSi or DSi XL, reality sets in. They removed the GBA slot, but included an SD card slot, and as a kid, I had an idea for a version of Guitar Hero on tour for the DSi that connected to that port. Still proud of that idea. To give the DSi credit, there were some games exclusive to it that wouldn't work on a DS Lite or DS, like games that use the cameras. But 2 games found a way: Face Training and Face Training. This game focuses on strengthening your facial muscles, giving you a tight smile, and the only way for it to accurately insult you is with a camera. The Facing Scan camera was only released in Japan and came bundled with Face Training alongside a stand for the DS. You can pop it on here sideways and use this thing on a desk more easily, and it's pretty surreal to see camera footage on a DS or DS Lite. It works across both models, even the original DS. Since the device fits flush with the model, you have a jump scare option. Face Training was later released for the DSi in Europe with no need for the Facing Scan. Still came with a stand for the system though, but nothing will beat the magnetic stand, released only in Japan. This was primarily marketed alongside games like Personal Trainer Cooking due to the fact the magnets can turn any fridge into a smart fridge. The stand plugs into the GBA slot and holds the DS up that way. It's like somebody holding you up by your nostrils. But yeah, you can set it up for at a table by opening up the bottom and adjusting the angle a bit. It comes with a dangling stylus. Your question was answered. But here's a similarly designed accessory, the slide controller, bundled with the Japan exclusive Slide Adventure Mag Kid. It receives power from slot 2 and turns your DS into a mouse.
Nobody told them the definition of necessary?
This is weird. So you move the DS around and control the character on screen as if the DS is a computer mouse, but the screen for the computer mouse is a computer mouse. And it works. The slide controller is one of the most bizarre things Nintendo has pushed out, just because of how seemingly unneeded it is. But it makes for an experience that can't really be replicated elsewhere. I mean, a computer, sure, but just moving the entire device around like a mouse makes this wholly unique. Speaking of motion-based gimmicks, Activision released a motion pack for the DS. This was a third-party accessory giving the DS some motion capabilities, specifically for Tony Hawk's motion. I move the DS, I move Tony Hawk in the game. It works okay, but at the end of the day, it just makes you want a real voodoo doll. Sega released a card reader that plugged into the slot, only in Japan, supporting just 3 titles. This is pretty much the same deal as Nintendo's e-reader for the Game Boy Advance, but even more useless. I don't have any of the games or cards for it, but if it's anything like the e-reader, run! The Easy Piano was a third-party accessory that turned your DS into like 2/8 of a piano. Alright, here's the deal with this. This is a cute toy that is completely bundled and supported by the wrong game. Easy Piano is mostly a minigame collection just about music, and when it does use the piano, it's like mostly just a noisemaker. It's kind of cool to hear piano noises from the DS after hitting some keys, but that's like kind of all there is to do with this thing. Rock Band 3, that featured keyboards as playable instruments. It got a DS version that used no accessories. This would have been perfect for that game, but no! Ever heard of a Greek tragedy? Well, now you have.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, this is a dumb piano anyways. If you really want to learn piano, there are far better and more realistic options out there to do so with. So let's talk about a DS accessory with real-world applications. I am, of course, talking about diabetes.
The Bayer Digit Blood Glucose Meter plugs into the GBA slot. Naturally, it is a glucose meter after all. Now, I couldn't get diabetes in time to discuss how this actually works, but I don't really need to. It reads your blood sugar levels and is designed to give kids with diabetes more incentive to read them more often. So alongside this device, you get a diabetes turn-based RPG, Knock 'em Down's World Fair. You get power-ups in the game for checking your blood sugar levels. The GBA slot deserves an award. There's so much it can do. Help with diabetes, put the DS on a fridge, with Tony Hawk. We can even turn our GBA slot-based devices into iPods with the Nintendo MP3 player. It's just a GBA cartridge, but it released during the DS's reign and mainly pushes them on the box. It's a cartridge with an SD card slot and headphone jack. You pop it in and you can play your media files this way. The name Nintendo MP3 player was a localization of the Play-Yan series of MP3 players Nintendo released for the Game Boy Advance only in Japan, with the Nintendo MP3 player only releasing in Europe. I would have killed for something like this back in the day. Just seeing video files play via games on the DS was mind-blowing. There were a handful more GBA slot-based accessories for the DS. Taito released a paddle controller, which is apparently incredible for games like Arkanoid, but I couldn't find one. I got the diabetes meter, leave me be. Last one I have here is the pedometer for My Weight Loss Coach. It really makes you think, why don't most pedometers have this plug? It's interesting My Weight Loss Coach comes with a pedometer, while My Stop Smoking Coach doesn't come with Nicorette.
But it's just a pedometer. When you wear it, you have the audacity to flash the Ubisoft logo to everybody. So yeah, it's worth it. Ubisoft did a lot of these life help games during this era. I believe they stopped because they realized they weren't good at it. Developed with a professional nutritionist. Just one.